Hello, this is Public Advocate, and I'm Shirley Graves, your hostess here. Today we're going to have an interesting informational discussion on St. Raphael's. There's a St. Raphael's parish, church. I think these ladies are going to give me all the right words to use in this issue because it's a very big place, and we're in downtown San Rafael, and they're having their 200th anniversary of the founding of the Mission St Raphael at the end of this year, and there are going to be some special events in addition to the wonderful programs and events that they put on. So we're going to get some really good information from these two ladies. I have on my left here Terry Brunner, who is the former curator at the Mission St Raphael, and on my right here is Marcy Miller, who is with the Marin History Museum, and they're cooperating on some displays and other auspices of what is going on here. So I would like to just get started discussing, make sure everybody knows when we're talking about that big church in downtown San Rafael, okay?
You got it.
Well,
thank you, Shirley. Thank you. Thank you for having us too. This is really special.
Oh, it's my pleasure, our pleasure.
Yeah. Did you want to start a little bit of maybe?
I can start.
A little Marin history, maybe, or?
One of the first events that we started with was a talk on the founding of the mission, which happened in 1817 as an estancia, which is a hospital or medical facility. It was found that Mission Dolores in San Francisco was having a problem with their native Indians being sick. And they didn't want sick Indians because sick Indians were not worker bees. And they really were dependent on the natives to do the work that the missions needed. First it was the Spaniards that were controlling it, and they used the Indians for raising crops to feed their military. Then it went to the Mexican control to use it for the same purpose. Mexico eventually gave it up because they were at war with Texas and just weren't interested in feeding the Indians up here anymore. But in the meantime, initially, there was a Padre Gil who was educated in the practice of medical sciences, and he offered to relocate over to Marin and open up a facility to house some Indians and see if he couldn't heal them, get them well. Because the problem was there was a great amount of infant illness. And over time, the Indian mothers weren't able to take care of their children because they had illnesses that they weren't familiar with. Particularly, the problem was changing from a wild environment to a civilized environment,
so to speak.
And the diseases that these Indians were exposed to, either by the soldiers or other settlers that came into the areas. So these children were coming up with diseases that the mothers couldn't take care of. The husbands were sick from illnesses they were exposed to. And the weather was better in Marin.
Yep.
And that's why we're all here, because the weather is better in Marin. And the healing waters of San Rafael Hill. So Father Gil...
still come off the hill, by the way.
It does. So Father Gil says, I'll go.
Yep.
I'll take care of them.
Relocated from
and he did,
and
they got well. And then they would be sent back, and they'd get sick again, and they would come back. So kind of a revolving kayak.
Did they ever find out what was wrong?
Why they were sick? Oh, syphilis and tuberculosis and smallpox. And just over time, as the generations went by, it went on for over 50 years, the illness was documented. The mothers just were experiencing illnesses that their children had that they had no
idea
cures for, or any herbs that they were familiar with, or any of those things. So you imagine going from living in the Valley of California to the fog of San Francisco.
Well, and the thing about it is, too, the Native American Indians have been here. According to the Coast Miwok and the Southern Pomo Indians, they say we've been here for beginning of time.
10,000 years.
And we actually have archaeological evidence out in the Santa Barbara Channel Islands that suggests that the Native American Indians, including the Chumash and Santa Barbara Islands, were here 11,000 years ago. And living in absolute harmony with the land up until the time of the mission era in 1817. So when they established a mission in December 14, 1817, 200 years ago, there were thousands and thousands of Indians living in tribes. The Tamil tribe, Tamil Pious. We had many tribes, and as you had mentioned about Father Gill, he spoke 5 Coast Miwok languages. And he also delivered babies. He did everything. He was pretty incredible. And he really had a compassion for the Native American Indians, and that's why he really wanted to learn their languages and get to know them, which helped immensely at Mission St Raphael. The natural spring still comes out of San Rafael Hill. If you ever go up Robert Dollar Drive, you're going to see it come out of there, and a lot of times what happens is that Mission Stream still routes itself through the Mission property. And what happens is inside the big parish church of St. Raphael that was built in the fall in October of 1919, when you see that big pink church from the 5th and A Streets, and you'll see it, and we have, that used to be a confessional, now it's our floral closet, we've transferred it into it floods. And the water table rises because that's the Mission where they used all the irrigation, and that stream still comes down. It goes around the Boyd House as well, and that's why there's signs saying it's runoff, don't worry about it, and you'll see that it's still a very active natural spring, and it's really good water by the way.
Goodness.
So yeah, it still comes down.
If
and that's what
anyone
they
saw
used.
the water in the crosswalk at Nye and Mission, or 5th, 6th Street Mission, that's the water from the hill.
Yep.
Comes up in the
That's
middle of
right.
the street.
Yep.
The middle of the street.
It'll come up in a crack.
Yep. It does.
So it's powerful water coming off of San Rafael Hill.
And that's what made this particular site so desirable. The sunny environment, the hill, natural kind of defense. There was a road that went around, which is not Lincoln Avenue. What was it? Petaluma Road?
Oh, Petaluma Boulevard.
Yeah, Petaluma Boulevard. And so when the Mission was established, they found that it was perfect conditions, for all the agriculture. And it's hard to imagine 4th Street and 3rd Street and 2nd Street, with grapevines and pear trees. And, it was a completely different landscape. And even the cattle that they had grazing, all of San Rafael Hill looks nothing like it does today because the cattle were grazing on it. So you'll see old photographs, and it's very trim.
Oh my goodness.
Lot of
Every
acreage.
tree that's growing around there is an opportunistic tree that came up because it was just grassland.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it continues to be a very magical place. San Rafael does, and being in this kind of hub of Marin County. So we're very blessed to continue to serve a very multicultural community as it started out. So.
Well,
yeah.
you have a wonderful location for the church and the school and everything there. Everything is, you're right in the middle of everything, really, downtown, and very convenient for everybody.
Yeah, town group.
Everything's centralized.
Yeah.
Well, it went on that way for about 5 years, and in 1822, it was promoted to full mission status. So it originally
Served as
was
a
not the final mission. Mission Sonoma was the final one, and San Rafael in between was an estancia with the hospital. It finally got mission status because it was very prosperous in those orchards that Terry was talking about. So the missions probably say, well, we need to make this official and mark it as ours. And so that was 1822. In 1823, they finally got around to whitewashing the adobe to preserve it. But it still didn't make adobe a brick, as a preserved is a good piece of material to build with, and it kept crumbling. There were fires, there were different things that came along. In 1834 was the year Mexico finally decided to give up managing the missions. And they said they all need to be secularized, and the idea was to give it back. So now you're talking about 50 years of this process going on, at least here in San Rafael, and the other missions much longer. But being the last one appointed as a mission was the first one that they secularized
Yeah.
to give it back. But unfortunately, by this time, the natives had lost their skill at their fishing or understanding the clam beds, the different sources of food that they were used to, more certainly the herbs and the different materials that they used for their own healing. And their culture, they just lost their culture. They had become cattle grazers, grew the vineyards, grew the pear trees that the mission was so known for. and it was very difficult for them to go back into their ways. Whereas Mexico and Spain before them said, "Let's just give it back. They can do it," but they couldn't do it. They'd become civilized.
So what
if you can
happened?
use that word. They eventually lost the properties to the men that had failed up in the gold mines, the gold fields, came back down here and would cheat the Indians out of their property. There was a man, Timothy Murphy, in San Rafael, who became the representatives on the Indians' behalf, negotiating with General Vallejo and with the mission authorities to get a certain amount of property. And they were allowed so many heads of cattle, so many acres of land, a communal area of land. And that just didn't work out because they weren't able to maintain it when somebody come along with, unfortunately, a bottle of whiskey and a deck of cards, and they would get into something. He had negotiated for them to have all in Acacio, and they ended up losing that land. And that was sort of the fate of demise of that property.
Oh my.
And then by 1846 or so, 1847, General Fremont and Kit Carson were here. They used the mission, the original mission, as a stable for their horses. So
It had been abandoned, falling apart. These guys come along.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad stuff during this time of military outpost. And then what's really tragic is by 1850, when California became a state, we do have a registry of 1851 that listed only 14 Coast Miwok left at Mission San Rafael. Here you had thousands, and you're now down in 1851. Today we have a federally recognized group, and they're called the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria. Those folks, they number probably about 1,200, a little over 1,200 today. They're based out of close to Santa Rosa, the Rohnert Park, and they have the Great and Rancheria today. But they have survived, you know. So you have those are the actual descendants from the registry of 1851.
And what do they do to? Are they work the land to get by, or?
Yeah, and then I believe that I know that Tom Smith. Didn't Tom Smith, he returned back to Bodega Bay, and a lot of the folks went back to their homes. Tom Smith's house is still there, I believe, It's right in there, the Inn of the Tide's kind of down below, but you'll see some of
They did so much excavation and research and study up there along Bodega Bay and north of Sonoma Coast, and that research is done and preserved over at the Bancroft.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because I went up there to see it and couldn't. Told me to go to Berkeley.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my.
So it's a really intriguing history, and then I was going to say, now I'm thinking about the whole Tom Smith family, but
Okay, that's all right.
yeah. So and you know, we try to keep, you know, and we remember this site as Nanaguani, which is the Coast Miwok name.
I can't pronounce that.
Nanaguani. And you can say Kamolish, which means I'm glad or I'm happy, means thank you.
So in San Rafael, if you're picturing being on the steps of the chapel of the mission, and you look over to your left down to where the parking lot is for the back parking lot of the Bank of America building, that's about where they think the Nanaguani, that's where the village probably was.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
And what's interesting too about Mission San Rafael, there are as it became a mission by 1822, in October of 1822, they discovered that it was the only mission that was in an L shape. All of the other missions were created out of a quadrangle because that was the sort of a way in which to protect the mission in the ground. So it was the
right,
only
you mean with
mission.
a big yard in the middle of their buildings all around.
Exactly.
Yes.
You'll see a lot of those depictions, the Oriana Day paintings, for example.
The one down near Gilroy, I've been down there.
San
and
Juan
that-
Bautista?
Yeah, thank
isn't
you.
that beautiful?
And same thing, that I had that explained to me. That
Yeah, and what's interesting is that we don't know the original footings of the original Mission San Rafael and where it is. We believe it is where the rectory is today. So St. Raphael's Parish is right at the top of 5th and A Streets. And we believe that where the original mission sat, in its L-shape, the chapel, and then the arm extended off to the right. When in 1861, they demolished it. It was called the mud heap. It was referred to as a mud heap there at Mission San Rafael. 2 years later, President Abraham Lincoln signed a decree saving all the missions 2 years too late.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so we have one painting in our exhibit. We are showing, we have an exhibit coming up at the Marin Center. The opening reception is September 7th. What time? 6 p.m. I believe at Marin
6
Center.
o'clock.
The showcase, come all the way back, and the Lou and Marge Bartolini galleries. And so you got to come to the Bartolini
And what will be
Gallery.
going on there on September 7th?
We have an exhibition going. We have some of Father Sarah, who's now Saint Sarah, his vestments when he started 9 of the 21 missions. So we have his original vestments. I had those restored. Those are on display. We have some religious artifacts, some Native American Indian artifacts on display. And
We
it's
have a branch of the pear tree.
yeah, the original
We
pear
have
tree.
a brick tile from the roof.
Yep.
Things I didn't know we had.
Yep.
All
And
in possession
what's-
of the Marin History Museum.
And Shirley, what's really exciting, this is the first time that the Marin Center, the Marin History Museum, and the parish of St. Raphael have come together, and now we're sharing our history and our story
wonderful.
in one gathering. So
The
it's
exhibit started, I think, as an idea of Al Boros.
Yes,
He's on the
Al
board
Boros.
of directors of the Marin History Museum, with Michelle Kaufman, joining with Terry.
Yep, and
Brought
Holly
in Holly
Gallagher.
Gallagher as the curator to curate the whole thing. It is a very large exhibit. It's not a little small traveling exhibit. It's got several cases. It's got stand-up cases. Must be 10, 15 pictures on the wall.
Yep.
It is something to see.
That's September 7th. It's
Yeah, September 7th at 6
Okay.
p.m. in the Marin Center.
Yes.
And Charlie Barboni has been so
Oh, Charlie
gracious
Barboni
to.
needed to mention Charlie.
Oh my God, he's been so generous to allow us to have this space to be able to do this. And it is with that partnership with all 3 communities and
wow.
larger communities. And there's so many people that are off-site that, you know, have participated in putting this together as a community event. So it's
Well, there'll probably be a lot in the
extremely exciting.
newspaper about it then too, right?
I think that the
There will
Marin
be because
IJ
they came and photographed
with
and
Lou and
interviewed
Marge
everybody.
Bartolini, yeah. So they took their pictures with the gallery
So there
and
will
some
be
of
an
the works
article
of art.
coming up.
Sure, it's
But
okay.
even if you can't make it to the opening,
But come visit us.
it's open every day.
It'll be open every day, and it'll close October 18th.
Yeah.
So you got to
Okay.
come in before October 18th,
Okay.
and time flies by really fast.
Just park in the back by the exhibit halls and come into the fair office entrance.
Yeah, and you'll see it.
Oh, you'll love it. You'll
Yeah,
love it.
it's really
Things
neat.
you didn't know.
Yeah,
You know,
Really will be
absolutely.
things
There was a remark here in some of the notes that I was given about the reintroduction of a mission pear tree in December. They're going to
Very
plant a
exciting.
pear on the parish grounds at 2 o'clock on
So
December
what we're going to
14th.
do is there is one last pear tree that has mission pear grafted onto it down at Marin Art and Garden. So it was something that I think Miss Livermore and someone else had there was 3 women, had the idea we need to preserve this. And when they enlarged the Masonic Hall on 4th and Luton's, the last trees were cut down. But they had saved a graft of that tree and grafted it onto a
The
pear tree, and
Unterman
it's
family did.
outside.
Yeah.
Yes, it's outside of the Octagon house, which houses the Moya Museum for the Ross Historical Society. So the tree is still there, and it is blooming, and it bears fruit. So now what we're going to do, get another pear tree planted in December, and once it takes foot and hold really good, in the spring is when you graft onto it, and we will graft from that tree in Ross, and we will have a mission pear tree on the mission grounds
Yeah.
again.
Which will be very exciting.
And at the Art and Garden Center, it's in front of the Octagon House.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can go see it if you want to.
Well, I have to be there for
Anyone
something
can
else
go
on
see-
Friday morning, so
Well-
I will go by the Octagon House.
And you know how special that is.
Yes.
And we're grateful to West End Nursery too, with
Yes.
Tom Unterman, and we couldn't do it without him. And he's been so fantastic, always been so helpful, and we worked very closely with West End Nursery, and they're going to jump right in and graft it right back on. So
Oh
we're
my
very excited.
goodness.
So there's some really neat events, and I guess I should go ahead and mention we do have. I put together a guest lecture series at Mission St Raphael. Again, this is the whole parish community. It's everyone's invited. Marcy's been gracious enough to do some talks that have had standing room only. And she's such an incredible speaker. So coming up on September 5th, Betty Girk will be talking. She is the author of Chief Marin. And
She was the teacher at College Marin
yes,
for many,
she was.
many
Yeah,
years.
she
History,
was,
yes.
Yes, very, just absolutely brilliant. I think she's just completed her 5th book. So Betty, if I'm wrong, is it the 6th or 7th book? I'm not sure. But she will be speaking September 5th coming up. And her talk is entitled, sorry about that, Chief Marin at Mission St Raphael, Friend or Foe by Betty Girk. So it'll be inside the Mission Chapel at 6 o'clock, and there's no admission fee for that. And then,
She will have her books.
yes, yeah, we're going to tell her to bring her books. October 17th, I've invited Glenn Ferris, who has archaeologists, just unbelievable, in Sonoma and in Marin counties, interaction of Mission St Raphael with the Russian colony of Fort Ross. So that'll be very intriguing. And that's coming up October 17th, also at 6 p.m. in the Mission Chapel. And then I will have Cassidy DeBaker. She's an archaeologist with Garcia and Associates. She did her master's thesis on Mission St Raphael specifically in the lens of an archaeologist, which is unbelievable. She will be talking about mission archaeology, and that's coming up on November 7th at 6 p.m. also in the Mission Chapel, and that's free for the community. But the big event is coming up December 16th. It's a Saturday. It's not landing on the actual day of the founding of the mission itself. That's why the pear tree comes in. But we will have a 5 o'clock mass, and Archbishop Cordileone from San Francisco Archdiocese will be coming in, giving this mass, the 5 o'clock mass,
On the 14th.
December 16th.
Oh, December
Saturday
16th.
night mass.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have the whole community. We've invited the mayor of San Rafael. We've invited the whole community to come. So we probably will start about 4:15 or so. People will probably start gathering around 4 o'clock. And from about 4:30 to about 5, right before Mass starts, we will be blessing the ground, and we'll have a ceremony that we'll partake in the beginning before Mass. Mass will go from 5 to 5:45 or so, probably, it depends. We've also invited our Coast Miwok families, and so we hope they come also and participate, and I imagine they did. They came for the 199th kickoff, and it was very special to have that as part of our celebration. Then we'll have a reception for the entire community. We will have all of the cultures that originally started Mission San Rafael, the Spanish, the Mexican, the Anglos, everybody. We'll have the Vietnamese community partake on all of it, and we have a Brazilian community. So we have so many communities, the El Salvadorian clubs, everybody will be partaking in a grand fiesta. So it's the whole community is invited, so it's going to be a big event. So that'll be December 16th.
Wow.
And then come back in March of 2018 when we graft the pear tree. So it's nice because the lecture series, it's great because Marcy has given so many talks, and having these experts in the field and giving us their viewpoint through a PowerPoint presentation and slides is going to be key. So yeah, and you can contact us at St. Raphael's Church in downtown San Rafael. You can call the 415-454-8141 number, and you're going to speak to Kenny. We can also just check out the St. Raphael's website and take a look. St. Raphael, it's all spelled out, .org, I think. Just type in St. Raphael San Rafael. Yeah.
Now, I also note in my notes here that there is a students having a contest.
So
Yes.
exciting. So the kids, we've invited the communities, and so in 3rd grade they study Native American Indians, and in 4th grade they study the missions. And so what we've invited the community to do in 3rd grade and 4th grade is come and do a drawing contest, because we don't need any big missions made of Cheetos and sugar cubes, because they get eaten by bugs, and we don't like bugs. So
No bugs in the church.
we've kept it to paper. So we're going to have the students can either create a drawing a painting that it doesn't have dripping paint on it, some watercolors, quite possibly, and also poetry. And so we're inviting the community to these kids. I believe we've included 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So if anybody is out there and wants to do part of our coloring contest, we need artwork to come in. And we will have a panel of judges judge the artwork, and we'll be handing out some certificates to the kids that, either through poetry and art and, putting that all together. So we invite the entire community to come and invite your children to please make us something. And the rules we have a sign-up sheet that it goes with. And so you're able to see the requirements and how it...
sign-up sheet?
Kenny's got it. So you just contact St. Raphael's Church and they'll send it to you. They'll email it to you. But it's...
And let's give a telephone number to
call.
415.
Yeah, 454-8141. Yeah.
And call that number if you want more information on submitting to the student contest or packet of rules or whatever, however you're handing that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
just give us a call. We'll send it on
Good,
its way.
okay.
Or email us, at St. Raphael's Church.
And the email is?
Well, it's going to go to Kenny, Keeny, Aguilar, Aguilar, at St. Raphael. It's all spelled out, SaintRaphael.com. It is .com. It's not .org. It's .com now.
.com, okay.
Yeah. And so we'll just give her a call, shoot her an email, and she'll send it on its way.
Good,
Yeah.
okay. Hello, we just took a little break here because we have added another contributor to this wonderful discussion on St. Raphael's. I have up here Leslie Simons, who is with St Raphael Heritage, and she's going to tell us her connection with this wonderful committee.
Great, thank you. St Raphael Heritage is a historic preservation group. We are very interested in preserving the architecturally important buildings in St Raphael, obviously. One of which is the Mission. I'm on the board, and our goal is to promote the preservation of St Raphael's historic resources and architecturally significant structures. Our participation in this event, along with Marin History Museum and Save Marin's History, all active secular organizations, give credence to this being a community-based event. I don't know if we spoke before about the Mission Pair, but could I just go forward a little bit?
Yeah.
The reintroduction of a Mission Pair will be celebrated on the 14th of December by the planting of a new pear tree on the parish grounds. The planting will coincide with the actual dedication date of the Mission St Raphael Archangel on December 14th, 1877.
Oh, wow.
1817.
17, excuse me. 1817.
1817.
Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone will bless the tree during the main official event on the 16th. And that's it.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, well, okay, to take care of it. So we were, you were talking about the student contest now. Is there anything more you'd like to say on that? That's a very important thing, I think, to get students involved in that way.
We always take a look at as a committee, and we thought, my goodness, this would be a perfect opportunity as a committee, not only in a multicultural sense, but also get the children involved. And so to have an art and poetry and writing contest that really opens up that sense of history, and they can choose the Native American Indian history that's here at Nanagwani. They can choose, something about the mission bells or about priest vestments or something to that effect, and so, or what life was like during the mission era. And so, in fact, we've invited that, and so we're looking forward to it, and we're just kind of excited about what the kids are going to create,
Oh, right.
Yeah, so 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I believe we decided upon, so that
Goodness,
opens
you
that
could
up.
publish a book with all their essays in
I
it.
know. And so what our
It'll be a
plan
big
is,
contest.
at the December 16th event, we're going to actually hang up their works around the gym where we're having the reception afterwards. I believe that's where we're going to put everything, and then we'll return them.
I especially hope that students that are studying the missions as their assignment in school come to the Marin Center and see the exhibit there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, while San Rafael was its own mission, the missions had commonality. I mean, they all had rope lariats, they had barbed wire, they had tile roofs. And you could see examples of those in the exhibits. The priests, they wore those same vestments. They wore maybe ish, but you can really see examples. The pictures, we don't have a picture of the Mission St Raphael. It looks, I've seen other pictures and I said, oh, there's a picture of Mission St Raphael, and it's San Juan Bautista.
Yeah.
They do look similar. They have, you know, they were built at the time. There was only so much adobe you could make out of hay and
straw,
other
dung,
things.
and
So you could see, get a feel for it. And it is a simple exhibit in the sense that a fourth grader could feel very welcome to
yes, absolutely,
to look at it.
You know, I have a painting of the San Juan Bautista mission that I bought when I was down there. I mean, you know, painting. And there was some kind of a message on the back in a foreign language. And so I found out it was Swedish. And somehow I made a copy of it. My copy machine, don't ask me how I got that. Anyway, I talked with the ladies at the Swedish Council in San Francisco, or some kind of a committee. And they told me, well, that's a mission in Sweden.
Oh my goodness!
And she knew I was, you know, she always lying on the floor, and she
And
said
you bought
that.
it as San Juan Bautista?
Right, and I know it looked like San Juan
The
Bautista.
commercialization of the missions.
There
She
you go.
said that they really, you know, they really depended on the previous ones to get their ideas as to how to do
That's
this.
interesting.
That was what they told me at the time. So it's still hanging on my walls. It's beautiful.
Wow. I think maybe we should also mention the current mission, because a lot of folks get confused when they come visit Mission San Rafael. And on the facade of the actual mission, it'll say 1817 original, and then the replica mission was 1949. So the building that borders Fifth Avenue today was built in 1949.
Oh.
In 1946, William Randolph Hearst donated the money for us to actually have that built.
Oh my.
As you know, Hearst Castle is built at San Simeon, which also touches on mission grounds. He has a deep sensitivity for the missions. He, along with other partners, his grandsons is part of our committee at the California Missions Foundation. And so he is part of that. And our goal is to preserve all of the missions and the pueblos and the asistencias in California. So it's a much bigger organization, and that St. Raphael's is actually tied to. So the money was donated in 1946. In 1947, however, the rectory by Arnold Constable was built. Arnold and Francis Arnold Constable are the two architects that lived out of Sausalito. And they are father-son, and they designed, Arnold Constable designed our mission, our 1949 mission, and they took ideas from Mission Carmel. The star window that you see is a design idea from Carmel Mission. And the extension on St. Raphael's Church today, when you walk in the original 1919 building, and you'll see it just kind of opens up, Francis Arnold Constable designed that addition back in 1960 and 61. So it opens it up. And so when you walk along the floor inside St. Raphael's Church, and you're stepping down the main aisle, underneath your feet is the Victorian structure of 1919. And all of a sudden your feet don't echo anymore, and you walk on a cement slab, and it goes ding, 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 boom, boom, boom. You know, so it's very funny, actually.
Oh my.
Inside St. Raphael's Church, but you'll see that extension.
But to have all this history though available, so you know what it.
All that supports
Yes.
the preservation need to preserve our history,
Oh,
our
yeah.
landmarks, the architecture,
Yep,
the
yep.
of, to have the architects live in Sausalito and the Hearst family, all of that.
Yep. And all of the stained glass windows in the current parish church were all crafted in San Francisco. And the big, huge St. Raphael, when you look up the street, and St. Raphael is known as the patron saint of bodily healing and travelers, because he was chosen for the patron saint of Mission San Rafael, because remember, they came over because
Assistencia.
that was the assistencia, that was the hospital, and so they had to decide on a
Mission
patron
Dolores.
saint, and so they chose Saint Raphael. And in the book of Tobit, it talks about Tobit and Tobias, and about that Tobit's dad, Tobias, was blind, and as they walked about, St. Raphael, who appeared as a common man, said, "Go to this fish," and the fish has all of these healing properties. And so get the gallbladder out of the fish, rub it on your father's eyes, and he was able to see. And the archangel appeared, and they went, "Wow," it's St. Raphael. And so they offered him jewels, and he said, "No, I'm fine, and I'm good, I live in heaven." And so he was chosen in that beautiful bronze statue. As you look up into the big church of St. Raphael, that bronze statue was cast in 1919 in San Francisco. They paid $608.40 for that beautiful bronze.
And now a plaque like this is going to cost
you
$600.
$600. Yes. You're right.
I wanted to mention one other thing that I forgot about the pear tree. This event is going to begin at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 14th of December. And there will be a talk about the history of the mission grounds and orchards given by Gary Scales. He is a trustee of the Moya Library, which is also known as the Octagon House, Marin Art and Garden Center. And that is where the existing original mission pear stands, by the Octagon House. And it had, last I was there, it was just covered in fruit. It was amazing. Anyway, a cutting will be taken in March by Tom Unterman of West End Nursery and grafted onto this newly planted pear. So that we will again have a mission pear on the grounds. Tom is the great nephew of Richard Lorman, who made the first graft of the last standing mission pear. The last orchard tree was to be destroyed to make way for the El Rey Apartments, which are located at the corner of 5th Avenue and Luton. So when this is complete, the pear will be the only living remnant of the original mission and its orchards. Now, one of the things that I've been running over quite a bit of late was this plaque. And basically Vallejo was sent to inventory the San Rafael Mission's holdings, but what he actually did is he took it all away. And I believe he moved it to Ranchero de Petaluma, which was a working ranch over in the Petaluma on Adobe Road.
Yeah,
course,
and it's still
park.
there today.
Yeah, it's a state park. There are 2 state parks dedicated to Vallejo. One in Sonoma, where the garrison was and the more formal living situation, and then the working ranch over on Adobe Road in Petaluma. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we got Gary Scales talking, because he'll be very interesting.
And when is he speaking?
He will be speaking on the 14th of December. At 2 o'clock-ish.
Once we get the tree in the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be taking a pear tree into the ground. And that is and we chose that day because that is the actual 200 mark that one day. So that's going to be very exciting.
And it'll be on the plaque.
Why don't you give the telephone number again where they could call for information, anybody who's very, very interested in this, and come the 1st of December or something, wants some more info. They would call St. Raphael's and
at 415-454-8141.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. And you said there was a website.
Yeah, www.saintraphael, SAINTRAPHAEL.com. Or the .org, or is it com?
No, I think it's org.
Org.
Yeah.
SaintRaphael.org.
I don't think
Yeah. The email
it's
is
not a
.com.
commercial.
Sorry.
It's not
.org. It's an organization.
REL for religion? No.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Always
I should say that
fascinating.
over, because that way we can edit that part.
There's also going to be a time capsule that is going to be put in and removed from wherever it's hidden in 25 years. Not sure why, but they're going to put things like, there's a plate that Barbara
Costamonia.
Thank you. I have a hard time with that name. That has all the missions on it, every single one. And she's dedicating that for the committee, the lecture committee, along with people who are graduating in 17 and, a lot of other little things.
Yeah. So we're putting a time capsule in the ground that day too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it'd be very exciting. Newspaper. Yep.
I hope.
Yep.
And that will be up by St. Raphael somewhere.
Yeah, it's by the mission.
dedication
By the
article
mission.
to the
Yeah.
from the church.
Mission St Raphael
So
Arcade.
that will all be in the newspaper so people can follow it.
We
and-
hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there is so much going on that I'm glad we were able to cover some of it. I'm sure there's an awful lot we
have
haven't
some
even
stories
covered.
now.
Yes, right.
Want some
We
stories?
have some stories. So there was a lot of good that happened at the mission, and for a lot of good purpose. And we pear trees and grapevines and
Oh.
all kinds of
Barley
things that
and
were
wheat and
good.
sheep.
And there were some bad things that happened, and not so nice things. There was the years that Kit Carson and General Fremont came to the mission. On their travels from Sacramento, imprisoning Vallejo, in Sacramento coming down to Olampali, trying to shoot some Mexicans, missing the Mexicans, getting there too late. The smoke fires were still burning. Seems communication was faster then than my cell phone. And they headed south to get these Mexicans that they were trying to, it's when the United States was taking over the government, so they were trying to get the Mexicans off of the property. And you know, news traveled slow, so they were still settling here, and Fremont took it on himself. Whether he was representing the government or not, we don't know, but he was going to shoo them out of Marin. And he made it down as far as Rancho San Jose, where Ignacio Pacheco had extensive property and fabulous horses. And they knew he had fabulous horses, good food, and women. But Ignacio had heard they were on their way, and he ran all of his good horses, good food, and the women up the canyon, and where there's the waterfalls named for Pacheco. And they tied him up on a horse and just insisted all day long, tell us where the goods are, and he wouldn't tell them. And they finally gave up and untied him. I've heard also that he paid a ransom, but I wasn't able to verify that. And they finally gave up and said, well, we better get down to the mission because I'm sure the Mexicans are holed up in that good mission falling down mud pile of a mission. So Fremont and Kit Carson got here to San Rafael Hill, and we're camping out up on the hill. And General Fremont said to Kit, wait here, I'll be back in the morning, I got something I got to do, and I'll be back in the morning, and then we'll head down there to the mission because they had a good view down to the mission. And then we'll take care of business. So the night goes by. Next morning, General Fremont comes back. They get on their horses, get ready to take off to charge down the hill to wake everybody up and capture them, take them prisoner. And there was a locust hatching in San Rafael, the largest one ever. Grasshoppers everywhere, in the horse's nose, in their ear, in the soldiers' ears and nose, every orifice, everywhere. Fell off their horses. The horses ran off. The Mexicans got away. It's known, you can look it up. It's known as Fremont's Grasshopper Revenge. True story. It is true. True story.
And Kit Carson, I mean, when they saw Berryessa come up and the DeHaro twins,
The water came all the way up to 3rd
bottom of Bay
Street.
Street. Yeah.
Right
Third
where, if
Main.
you look down from those steps I was talking about before, and where it levels out, that's where the water came to. So if you were to come over in your little boat, like a canoe, but made out of reeds, either they
Tule
came
reed
from the
boat.
Tule reed, they came either from the East Bay or San Francisco. You could see them easily. And Fremont sent Kit Carson down there to intercept them, whether they were coming here just because they were coming to church, or coming to trade, coming for good purposes, or what.
Yeah, and he shot him, killed him.
Yeah, Fremont said, I take no prisoners, and he shot them. It haunted Fremont's legacy forever. He never explained it, and but he never defended it, and it was
So where we
just
get DeHaro Street in San Francisco, that's the family.
Oh.
The DeHaro twins, yeah.
twin Indians.
And they had 4 sisters.
Did they?
They still lived, yeah. Yeah, they're still, the family has thrived, but without those two, so.
Oh my.
Yeah, very
So
interesting.
another little story I'll
Okay.
start with, and then I'm going to let Terry finish because she says she
bells.
knows something better.
Dun,
But in
dun, dun, dun.
1820, there were no bells at the mission. And then eventually they put one up just on a beam. It was a single bell on a beam. And over time, they eventually added 3 more bells. So there was 4 bells. Does 4 bells mean something?
Nope,
Significant?
it was just how it
Nothing?
happened, actually.
And so then during that secularization time in the
34.
1834, the bells went missing. They eventually found 3 of them, but they got smart and they made replicas of them. And that's what they hung out in front. And the original bells are now in the gift store museum at the Mission. So if you want to see them, you could go there to see them. So they hung those. In 1857, it can't be it must be 1957, at the 150th anniversary.
Yeah.
Boy, typo. They found the 4th bell. And they hung it on the Mission Street side of the Mission. And then in 1966, it was stolen.
Yep, and you want to
Go.
hear that story?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So there was a
The little
fraternity.
pranksters.
There was a fraternity at in Stockton, University of Pacific, and I forget the fraternity's name, and that's probably a good thing for them. But to become an initiate into this fraternity, you had to steal. There was one fraternity that was stealing bells. It had to be a mission bell, or you steal a lion, any kind of a lion. So there was one fraternity. So in 1966, November 16th of 1966, there's an IJ article. These kids, they got their hand slapped, by the way.
Oh, good.
They stole 3 of our mission bells out of the rack. If you can think that first of all, the 5th Street bell was stolen in 1990. Somebody cut the ropes. That bell weighs 175 pounds. So that's like carrying off with a grown man. So that's kind of crazy. However, in 1966, the mission bells were stolen. And these kids were driving funny. They put 2 of the bells in the trunk, and one kid had one of the mission bells on his lap. One was a wailing bell. Father Amoros brought one of the bells there. We do have one of the bells, and I had all those replicas made that are in the rack today, and I put the originals in the museum because I was terrified of anybody else stealing our bells after 1990 when they did steal the one out on 5th Avenue. So these kids were pulled over. Cop looked and said, wow, you've got some mission bells on your lap. That's interesting. 2 in the trunk. They opened it up. They had them returned. The judge kind of slapped the kids' hands and sent them off to their parents, and they were suspended. So I, as curator at Mission St Raphael, in my interest with the bells themselves, I was reading through Lucretia Hanson Little. She was a Mill Valley resident. She had a deep interest back in 1976-77 of Mission St Raphael and has done much research. She was responsible for the 150th anniversary that went on all weekend, by the way, and we have the programs of it. So she was solely responsible for a lot of that. She was an incredible person. So she wrote some articles about these mission bells, and I became intrigued. So I called the University of Pacific, and I called and I actually spoke to one of the fraternity members. And he told me that the basement of the fraternity house at the University of Pacific in Stockton had all these mission bells. Well, when the kids at the university were getting in trouble, etc., they didn't know what to do with it. So they took all of these bells and they paid for the storage unit. And they put all the mission bells, they were stealing them up and down the freeway, even the old El Camino Real bells. So in 1909, the California Bell Company, which is still around today, placed all of those mission bells up the El Camino Real, right? So the King's Highway. So they placed these bells out there. So these kids were out stealing these bells. So in 1966, the California Bell Company is like, let's make them out of cement. So there are mission bells along the El Camino Real. I got a call from a guy. I put an ad in the IJ, and we're an independent journal, and I said, I'm looking for our one mission bell that I knew was missing. We got the other ones back. And I put an ad in. I got a call from a guy in San Rafael saying, you know what? I have a cement bell and it's hanging in my yard. And I'm like, no, that's from the time that they were stealing them. A cement bell does us no good. But I went out and looked at it anyway. And they're poorly made. I mean, they're beautifully, they look nice on the outside, but you can tell that they're very thick in cement. And the
gosh.
California Bell
Wouldn't
Company
ring
made it.
very nicely.
No, I don't think it would make a nice sound.
Ding dong.
So I went to Bronze Foundry Plus. I wrote a grant to have copies made, and we still have the molds of those Mission bells. And Bronze Foundry Plus in Sebastopol, I was part of the whole process, which was really exciting to watch them cast the molds, make the
Oh my
molds, and then
goodness.
pour the bronze in there. So, and they. The replica bells sound much better than the originals because the pitches. So we invite you to come over to the Mission and ring those bells because those are
Really?
the replicas and they
Thanks,
won't break
Terry.
or crack. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
How come you can't get these mission bills back from
Oh.
this fraternity?
What happened was, so they put them in a storage unit
Didn't pay the bill.
and they didn't pay the bill.
Oh,
And if you've ever watched Storage Wars on TV,
We always looking for bells.
boom, open it up, and they sold whatever contents they could. And you
my
know what's
God.
really tragic that was in there that they used in the parade all the time? A 1934 San Anselmo fire truck. It ran like he said it was as clean as a whistle.
How did they steal
1934.
that?
Storage unit?
They stole it, they parked it outside the storage unit.
Holy smokes.
So all the bells,
Well.
the lions, and the fire truck
Oh,
are
that's
gone.
terrible.
I'm Marcy with the Marin History Museum. You can reach us with a question at info@marinhistory.org or our website, www.marinhistory.org.
Given Santa Fe Heritage.
And the phone number is 415-382-1182.
Yep.
And
And
Terry, once
St.
more time.
Raphael's.
Yes.
You're all going to know this phone number by the end. 415-454-8141. St. Raphael's. Yep. Give us a call.
And that-
Come to the parties.
Terry
Come to the
Bruner,
guest lectures.
because they introduced
Yep.
themselves, so I will
Yep.
introduce you. Well, we have reached the end of our program time here, and this has been just very, very interesting. All this historical knowledge that you know. You guys should get together and write a few more books or something. At least a couple of pamphlets. I mean, you just have done wonderful things with all of that. And I want to thank you all and say that this is the good night for Public Advocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.